Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Kermitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schwartz. Matt, you came in with some heat that time.
I felt like because of the things we're talking about this week, I needed to bring the energy up.
I'm so glad that you said that. Okay.
Because a little sleepy.
I got a little tired watching these.
A little bit sleepy. So got to bring the energy up here at the beginning because it's going to drop off for sure.
Yeah.
Because this week, we are here to discuss two more episodes of the 1985 series, Jim Henson Presents The World of Puppetry. And these are the two episodes about puppeteers Bruce Schwartz and Sergei Obraztov.
Two old friends of the show. We've seen these dudes a bunch of times, right?
Yeah, Bruce Schwartz was on The Muppet Show a couple of times doing his puppetry. He is a peer of Jim's that we'll talk more about later. But Sergei Obraztov is pretty much the reason Jim Henson's
He's
doing
Jim's
puppetry.
dad.
Yeah. I feel like there was a moment in that one where Jim was like, I need you to say you're proud of me, Sergei.
I felt like the whole time he was like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
It felt a little bit like a don't meet your heroes situation.
Yeah.
But before we get into talking about all of that, Sam, it's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to celebrate because this year is the 70th birthday of a very important character. In fact, it's the 70th birthday of two very important characters in our lives, Sam.
Joint birthday party.
Joint birthday party. Get ready. You got one guy real small, one guy real big.
Okay.
Because 1954, 70 years ago, two characters were brought into this world. The first, a little lizard by the name of Godzilla. He premiered in Japan on October 27th, 1954.
My hero, for real. My absolute hero.
And just a couple weeks later, Jim Henson was over working on a show called The Circle 4 Ranch with puppets like Pierre the French Rat and wrote down the word Muppet on some labeling used for studio soundtracks.
Does that still exist?
Somewhere. This is what Muppet Wiki attributes as the first use that's been cataloged of the word Muppet is from November 10th, 1954. So, the Godzilla and the Muppets are the same age.
That is really weird because Godzilla, I think maybe just because of fictionally what Godzilla is all about, he really does feel like he transcends time completely. Like he is from a million years ago for real.
Also, I think because of his, association with the ape, it feels like King Kong and Godzilla are similar ages.
Yeah, he's much younger than King Kong, though.
And Godzilla also a lot more media output than these Muppets, I think, in the theaters. Not necessarily TV, web, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as theatrical releases.
Consistently popular in film.
Yes.
For sure. But if we did a watch every Godzilla thing, I think we'd be done by now.
But would have to watch the cartoon and all that stuff, and
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess we would.
But we probably would be done by now still.
But we would still be done by now. Yeah.
I got thinking about this because I finally saw Godzilla -1.
Okay.
And Sam, I'm in love.
You loved it?
I loved it so much. I was sitting there watching it, loving it, and I was like, man, I would love to see them release a black and white version of this.
I thought the same thing while I was watching it too.
And then I looked on YouTube, and 2 days before I went and saw it, they had released a trailer for Godzilla -1 Color.
That's what it's called?
That's what it's called. And they
awesome.
are releasing that, not in Missoula, obviously, but some places in the U.S. Coming up. They're going to be showing Godzilla -1 in black and white.
That rules.
Yeah. And I just recently rewatched the 1954 Godzilla. I watched Godzilla Raids Again, the sequel.
That's the sequel,
for the first time ever, which my favorite trivia I was looking up about that movie is because the fights in that one, very sped up, like Charlie Chaplin fights.
They are?
Yeah. And basically they meant to, I'm going to get this wrong, either undercrank or overcrank. Overcrank means you're doing slow motion. They meant to overcrank to do slow motion. And they
that makes
accidentally,
way more sense.
yeah. And instead they undercranked, which made it fast motion. And then they watched it and they're like, well, we can't do it again. So
Oopsies.
put it in the movie.
They can't build the whole model all over again.
So,
that
yeah.
really sucks.
I will say Godzilla Raids Again, still pretty good, but nowhere near as good as the first one, and nowhere near as good as Godzilla -1.
But do you think Jim went and saw Godzilla?
I gotta think so. One, because he's what, like 18 or whatever?
Yeah.
Like he's like pretty young, and there's giant monster movies coming out.
Uh-huh.
And he's a guy who is impressed by puppetry and weird technology. Like, I feel like there's not a chance that 18-year-old Jim didn't go. Maybe that was him and Jane's first date.
Oh,
He was like, hey, Jane, you want to go see this lizard movie with me? Because, there's the whole Thog, Earth Move Under My Feet scene from the Muppet Show that is essentially a Godzilla movie with Thog. And
he's way bigger than Godzilla, though.
He is, yes. He's more like the American versions of, but even bigger, I guess. Yeah.
He's almost like an eldritch horror or something because that city is so small underneath his feet.
That's true.
But like American Godzilla, he can walk through Boston and look normal.
Right. He's not taller than all the skyscrapers.
Yes.
Whereas Thog would just use one as a toothpick. That's what we need. We need somebody. And when I say somebody, hopefully it's somebody on our Discord, because otherwise it'll just be me doing this, doing the scale math and seeing
one of those scale things.
Because they exist with Godzilla. You can see like Godzilla from movie 1 to now of how Godzilla has grown and changed.
Mm-hmm.
Put Thog in there. I want to see how big Thog is compared to Godzilla.
We can make a shirt of it. But Toho would destroy us instantly.
Yeah, they're pretty into the whole marketing merchandise game.
Yeah,
I think they
love that shit.
The moment anything with the word Godzilla comes across their Google alerts, they're like, shut it down.
Yeah. I liked Godzilla -1 okay, and I love the legendary Godzilla movies. I don't know why. He's just my big hero. He's a kitty cat guy. Do you sometimes when you're watching the newer ones think though like kind of what's the point if it's not a big guy in a suit smashing up a model?
There's definitely a charm that is lost to me on those. It's sort of like, to bring it around to Muppets a little bit. I think the Jim Henson like CGI computer puppetry shows like Sid the Science Kid are technically very impressive. Mm-hmm. But watching those, I am less impressed than if I watched the Muppet Show. Even though I know the technology is so much more advanced, something about that tactile feeling of the problem solving that had to go into making a giant lizard in a suit, attacking a train, cut together with people on a real train, and then you cut to this little stop motion toy set, and you're like, does it look 100% realistic? No. Is it charming as hell? Absolutely. Especially in the 50s, I'm able to forgive it.
One thing I wish so much I could do is go somehow experience watching movies like that or like Frankenstein without knowing anything and seeing like I want to go and see if people were really scared of those movies because it seems like they must have been. And like horror is something more than anything that gets like you can watch an old action movie and be like, holy shit. And even more so because they did like car flips and stuff in old ones. But horror movies, I feel like they go in the opposite direction where it's like you can't really go back too much and be scared by it. You can enjoy it. Yeah,
like the original Dracula and Frankenstein movies are like, a little unsettling, but you don't get scared of those. Like the what is scary in movies has changed dramatically. Yeah. But, what makes a good Godzilla movie today is like what made a good Godzilla movie in 1954. There's a reason this is the first period piece Godzilla movie. They were like, oh, that worked. Like that era worked really well for a Godzilla movie. Let's try it again.
Godzilla's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's my rating of Godzilla.
I feel like you've always been my Godzilla friend. When there's something cool about Godzilla, I've always appreciated from afar, but I'm not really in the know on Godzilla things. But I think because of watching things like Kamen Rider and Power Rangers as a kid, I've always been fascinated, especially by guys in suits in tiny cities fighting.
Totally.
And so the idea of Godzilla, and especially getting into the 60s and 70s movies, delights me. So I want to become more of a Godzilla guy. Well, we want to wish a happy 70th birthday to Pierre the French Rat and Godzilla.
Yeah. What a pair. Match made in heaven.
One of you has stood the test of time. The other one is somewhere in a dusty museum, I think.
Like in the basement of the Smithsonian or something like that.
Yeah, I think he is the oldest living Muppet. But for now, we are not yet starting a Watch All of Godzilla podcast. For now, we have Muppets to talk about. Kinda. So, Sam, how about you tell the people what we watched this week?
We watched 2 more episodes of Jim Henson Presents The World of Puppetry, a series of mini documentaries hosted by Jim Henson featuring puppeteers from all over the world that were produced in 1985. Tired of puppets being fun and singing vaudeville hits? Want to see puppets being really sad and singing Irish dirges instead? Well, Bruce Schwartz is the puppeteer for you. Witness, for better or worse, probably literally exactly the kind of puppet show that you'd see if you were warped back to medieval times. Ballet dancers, puppets performing traditional Chinese dances, and a variety of other beautiful, melancholy puppets performed in the bunraku style by a man who looks like he stepped out of a Middle Ages monastery. The real centerpiece of the show is The Theater That Walks, wherein Bruce wears a whole little puppet stage on his body and puts on a several-act play where a nasty, kind of Miss Piggy adjacent woman is so annoying that she first goes to hell and then gets kicked out of hell by Satan. Then we watched the episode about Sergei Obraztov. Like Bruce, this guy has popped up on Kermitment before, performing most prominently a sketch where a really gross-looking puppet man drinks a whole bottle of booze, if you'll remember. Mr. Obraztov lives in Russia and is the founder and director of Moscow's Central Academy Theater, which I don't think is entirely puppet-based, was what it seemed like to me. There's dancers and stuff too. But his specialty, obviously, is puppets. His other specialty is saying the word cliché a lot when describing his work. He says it so much when talking about things like his take on the cliché of Don Juan, wherein Don Juan escapes from hell, makes love to many beautiful women, and then ascends to heaven. Or the cliché of, like, having a baby, I guess, where he just kind of has a little puppet baby wriggling in his arms. Or the cliché of a variety show, which he pokes fun at by having a pretty normal variety show, except with puppets. They're very cool Art Deco puppets, so there's that, but I don't know what this guy's going for exactly.
I feel like you and me knew guys like this in film school, but they were like 20, and so you can kind of excuse the behavior of like, oh yeah, you're doing the anti-cliche movie by just doing a cliche movie.
Exactly.
But this guy's 70. Like, stop.
I don't want to shit on this guy too much, but it was like, he's like, oh, I'm poking fun at the cliche of dancers. And then it would just be people dancing. And it was like, bro, you're just, I don't know. You're just doing, is it a funny thing that it's puppets?
I don't know. I can't tell how much of his answers are just bullshit versus how much of his answers are extremely well thought out, but just very of an era of a society that we are so far removed from.
Right.
Like the Soviet Union in 1984, I know very little about. So,
well, even beyond that, it's like the Soviet Union, because this dude's old as hell.
Yeah, he talks about doing puppet shows during World War II.
Right. So whatever they thought was funny, he still has a seed of that rattling around in his head.
Right. Which, you know, a lot of old guys make a lot of dumb movies eventually because they get out of touch and they start making things that you're like, okay, yeah, it doesn't necessarily work anymore. So, yeah, I also don't want to shit on Sergei Obraztov because clearly he has a huge legacy, both for Jim and lots of puppeteers. I don't think he is bad at what he does. I'm not saying that. But the way he talks about his work is very odd. So as Sam mentioned, these specials were produced in 1985. not everyone saw them in 1985 because they were distributed amongst various countries, public television services. So, some were on PBS in America, some weren't.
Or when you had a substitute teacher in art class.
Right, which I don't think they were
Perhaps.
sold on tape until 1988 or something like that.
Okay.
So kids in schools weren't watching these necessarily at this time, but we are discussing them because they were a 1985 thing, and we're coming up on the end of 1985 in our discussions. So we got to
Yeah.
get them out of
Just
the way.
Picturing a high school student, American high school student watching one of these, it's like, okay. I don't think I want to do art anymore.
I'm just saying art's a bad idea. But as a part of the filming of these, obviously for the Sergei Obraztov one, Jim went to Moscow. And we've actually talked about this trip previously in our Kermitment journey here because it was from November of 1984. Jim Henson went over to Russia. He actually went over a couple of times to do like some research and to make some plans, but also went back to actually film the thing. And while he was there in November 1984, Mr. John Denver was also in Russia. He was playing.
Just happened to be?
I think
Or they went
so, because he he was playing 11 concerts on a tour of Russia.
Oh. Uh-huh.
So John Denver was like hanging out in Russia, and maybe Jim timed his visit so that he could be there when John was there.
With his best buddy.
Yeah, but this is just, I guess, when it worked out that they were filming the Sergei Obraztov episode, and also John Denver was there. So because of that, Ambassador Arthur Hartman, who I guess was the U.S. ambassador to Russia, his wife set up this whole thing at the American Embassy with a performance from John Denver, during which Kermit the Frog showed up and hung out with John and sang some songs. And previously, when we talked about this, we didn't know there was footage available to watch of this. But recently, one of our Patreon patrons on Discord unearthed some clips for us that you can find on Muppet Wiki. One is a short CNN report of this performance, and another one is a home video quality, that's being a little generous, of Kermit and John Denver at the Russian embassy singing Rainbow Connection. It's really rough quality audio-wise, but I believe it's the only time John Denver ever performed that song with Kermit. So,
Whoa, really?
yeah. But the first one was the CNN report, and it's really short. It's like a minute and a half, and you just sort of get the gist of what I just told you, that the ambassador invited them to perform there. You see them singing "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain," which they also sang in Rocky Mountain Holiday, so they both knew the words.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we see a brief clip of Jim Henson with Kermit and Sergei Obraztov with the drunken vodka swilling puppet at like a press conference, it seems like.
Yeah,
There's
two
microphones set up.
iconic characters meeting at last.
It's Kermit the Frog and Drunk Russian.
This drunk Russian guy.
There's also a transcript on Muppet Wiki of another news report, an ABC news report, which is almost identical to the CNN one we see, with one notable exception. There's a moment when the narrator comes in and talks over part of the John Denver Kermit the Frog bit. And because, I'm guessing, what the ABC one reveals is that at the time, Kermit and John are joking about coming to Russia. And Kermit says something about, like, he wanted to meet the Russian frogs, but it seems like they're all hibernating because he can't find any.
Mm-hmm.
And John says, I would have thought the frogs in Russia were red. And the crowd apparently had a mixed reaction. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. And if you know that and you go back and watch the CNN report, you can hear it a little bit in the background. But yeah.
Ooh, all those children in the audience.
Yeah, the kids were like, hey, we do not like your jokes.
Can we elevate John Denver to Kermit's best friend status?
Oh, wow.
I think he's got to be.
You think?
I think so.
I mean, they've hung out, 4 times now?
That's a lot.
Muppet Show, Rocky Mountain Holiday, John Denver and the Muppets
Special.
Christmas, and this.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have to assume the Christmas record was a different session as well.
perhaps.
So.
I'd say he's
But,
probably in a fight with Julie Andrews.
Oh.
Julie Andrews and John Denver, which is a fight I would pay to see.
That would be so sad. Julie Andrews would destroy them.
That'd be the least popular episode of Celebrity Deathmatch ever.
I think Julie Andrews has it in her to just really fuck somebody up if she wanted.
I mean,
to.
she's got the Von Trapp kids at her side to get him.
toot that little whistle and they all come out. Hi-ya. Yeah.
So before we get into talking about the actual things we watched, I want to talk a little bit more about Bruce Schwartz and Sergei Obraztov, what they're bringing to the table. Bruce Schwartz.
Great mustache, for one.
Great mustache. The filming of this one was during Jim's super busy summer, where he was shooting The Muppets Take Manhattan in New York, going up to Toronto to talk about Fraggle Rock, taping this episode, and recording the Sesame Street special Don't Eat the Pictures. And Bruce Schwartz, if you're asking, where is he now? He is still alive and kicking. For a while, he was running a yoga studio out in California.
Wow.
But no longer works with them. I found this out because I reached out to them and talked to them to see if they could put me in touch with Bruce to maybe be a potential guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
And they told me, yeah, he doesn't work here anymore. Also, when he was working here, he didn't really like talking about the puppet stuff. So
Interesting.
I don't think we're going to be getting Bruce on the podcast anytime soon. If you're looking for Bruce these days, he now blogs at the LA Native Plant Source under the name Eric Ameria. This is not a secret. This was in an article. I'm not doxing
like,
Bruce
whoa.
Schwartz right now.
You're blowing the lid off of it.
No, this was from like a LA Times article.
Okay.
So this is
Somebody else doxed him first.
yes. There's pictures of him being interviewed. He knew this was happening, but I don't know the ins and outs of the finances here. It says he now works full time maintaining his Eagle Rock property. He's very big into local and native gardening. And they say he's been fighting weeds and other non-native plants for 30 years, ever since he and his late husband Joseph first saw the property that would become their home. So somehow Bruce Schwartz turned a life of puppetry and artistry into a full-time job of gardening, which is pretty dope.
Of having an extremely hectic sounding yard, it sounds like.
So the article, oddly fascinating for someone like me who's not into gardening at all, he talks about how a lot of people come over and they're like, this is weeds, Bruce. This is a field. This is nothing. But his whole thing is that it's local native plants that would be growing in the spot where his yard is, but he's cultivated them a little bit more than just letting things grow wild.
Yeah.
But that's his
That's
job.
a Montana guy.
Oh yeah,
I understand that. We
he
have
would
lots
fit
of those
in
around
well
here.
in Missoula. There's a video interview with him. If you look up Bruce Schwartz, LA Native Plant Source, you will find an interview with Bruce Schwartz talking about his gardening. So he seems to be living his best life. On the flip side of that, Sergei Obraztov is no longer with us, having died in 1992 at the ripe old age of 91 years old.
I guess he never stopped talking about the puppets.
Oh no, I think he had that baby puppet on his hand until the moment he died.
Yeah.
But so in 1931, Sergei founded the State Central Puppet Theater in Moscow, an educational center, professional and amateur theater groups. It's still there. If you want to go visit and see a cool-ass cuckoo clock, it's still there.
That's still there? I was wondering
It's
about
on the
that,
outside of the building. It's right off of
Okay.
Red Square, so you can, I don't know that I would recommend visiting Russia right now, but if you happen to be in Russia, want to pop over to this theater, they got a cool puppet clock.
It was a fucking cool clock.
Every day at noon, apparently, all 12
All the
puppets
puppets come
pop out and
Dance around.
I don't know how it works, but there was recent videos on YouTube from the past few years of it still functional. So,
Wow.
and the theater named after him does an Obraztov Fest of like an arts festival. They at least did this last year. I don't know if it's an every year thing, but you can go to Obraztov Fest in Moscow.
This is all telling me that the real money is in puppetry, Matt. We got to pivot.
From Kermitment to puppetry, or from our actual jobs to puppetry?
Both. We have to throw it all away. We can
Ooh.
still do the podcast.
Okay, yeah, let's save the one that doesn't make us any money.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I did also want to mention, last thing here before we get into talking about what we watched, a little bit of context on where U.S. and Russia were at this point, because it's a weird time to look back on before, Sam and I were alive and think about what the U.S. and Russia were doing. What was the relationship like? For reference, this was recorded in the fall of 1984. So in March of 1983 is when Reagan dubbed the Soviet Union an evil empire.
God,
So-
they'd been at it for so long.
I mean, yeah.
They were still, okay.
This was according to some people, around the start of the Cold War II.
Oh, okay.
Some people say it was a war of words only and not nearly as tense as the
Sure.
Cold War I, but I wasn't there. I'm not going to vouch for that. But yeah, the former leader of the Soviet Union had died in February 1984. The Soviet Union boycotted the 1984 Summer Olympics in LA after the U.S. had boycotted the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow.
All right.
Reagan and Gorbachev were just about to start their talks in 1985, but that hadn't happened yet. And basically, in looking things up, this was described as a very twitchy time where both countries were like, hey, we don't like you, you don't like us, but let's not kill each other right now. And it's like, well, okay, I still have a button though. But apparently the Dark Crystal was a hit in Russia.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So it was shown there to apparently little fanfare at the Moscow Film Festival. But eventually, screenings of it were sold out with lines around the block, and they had to put extra screenings of it in Russia.
Why?
And so this got, I mean, I don't know. They hadn't seen Muppets and stuff, so this was probably just blowing their mind. So Jim, this got his attention, and he was probably, this is speculation on my part, he's like, I really want to talk to Sergei Obraztov.
Yeah.
Get me to Russia. They like me over there now.
I'm humanity's best hope for peace.
And if you remember, we talked about this during our Big Bird in China episode. They had discussed doing a Big Bird in Russia special right around this same time. John Stone and Joan Gans Cooney actually took trips to Russia in 1985 and 1986 to research doing that. But it ended up not happening. Well, getting into what we watched this week. First up, we got the Bruce Schwartz episode. And I think the biggest thing about this show to me that stands out is how drastically different every episode of this show is. This one opens up with Jim narrating, saying, we're here at an off-Broadway theater in Manhattan for Bruce Schwartz's performance. And Jim is in full-on PBS host mode, talking to the camera. People are just walking by in the background. He doesn't give a shit.
I liked this.
This is good Jim. This is like the best presenter I feel like he's ever been. Very natural. He's not like sitting in a weird chair with a big sweater.
Chair like
slouched
over.
You caught me having my hot cocoa.
Yeah.
So I think like this is the kind of Jim that it makes sense to me that this show exists with this Jim.
He needs to be in it more. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like in the Sergei Obraztov one, he's just sitting there. He didn't say like a peep the whole damn time.
Yeah, the Sergei one is interesting because there's a translator there the whole time who is not addressed or named. I didn't know if it was Sergei's wife or if it was just a translator woman who was sitting there. But she is translating one way, so whatever Sergei says, she translates to Jim. Presumably, Sergei can understand English, but maybe just doesn't speak it well because there's not like a cut. There's not a moment where someone's translating what Jim says to Sergei. I don't think it's a language barrier. I think it's a dude wanting to talk about what he wants to talk about and ignoring his interviewer problem.
Yeah.
Because every time Jim asks like a legitimately good question, Sergei is like, yeah, so the tango, I think, is pretty funny. Let me show you my tango puppets. And I'm like,
that's like
okay.
word for word what he says. The tango's funny. I used to go watch people dance the tango, which of course is very funny. What? It is?
Yeah, he describes the tango as very passionate and tragic. And this is always funny to me.
All right, bro.
Yeah, I like him, but it seems like he would be extremely frustrating because he just wants to make fun of everything. Like his idea for a story is like, hey, you know the tango? Yeah, I know the tango. Let's make fun of it. It's like, okay, why? What's funny about it? He's like, it's the tango. It's funny. Come on.
Yeah, his idea of making fun of it is just doing it.
Yeah.
It is like the art. You're right. It's like that person in film school or art school where they have like such a big, intricate explanation for every piece that they do.
My favorite is when that would happen before they would show it. And then you'd watch it and you'd be like, oh, this is trash, though. This is very bad. And the thing you just described was semi-interesting, if not pretentious. But now the thing I'm watching is just bad. But yeah, I mean, a little bit into the film school territory, but also into the shows being just so different. During the Bruce Schwartz episode, there's some very dreamy, dramatic 80s music video looking like dramatizations of Bruce hanging out in his apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Where we just see him sort of like drinking coffee and then picking up a puppet and putting it in a box. Right. And it's filmed with like 10 layers of Vaseline on the lens.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And it's it's not like always a very specific good reason to cut to a dramatization of something like that. Like there's literally a moment where he's just standing in his kitchen drinking tea, but it's clearly shot for this and not just like documenting his daily life.
Oh, I mean, I would assume he had a different film crew on every shoot, maybe?
I think so, because we've learned that these are produced in partnership with the local like public broadcasting channels. So I am guessing...
So probably edited by different people too?
Maybe. I guess overall, what'd you think of these 2 episodes compared to maybe the other ones?
I struggled with these ones. I feel like the first 2 we watched were kind of batshit insane in a way that was like really captivating.
Yeah.
The Bruce Schwartz, like there was a lot of times in the Bruce Schwartz one where I was like, I'm so bored. But then it would show like really like a detailed shot of how he was doing something, or like using one hand to make the 2 hands do something different. And it was like, bro, you're on another level. But it's kind of like what you were saying, where when something looks too good, like new Godzilla movies, you're just like, meh, I don't know. When it's scrappy stupid, you're like, this is great. Look how stupid and fun this is. But when it's beautiful and perfect, it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So I was really going in and out on the Bruce Schwartz one. I liked a lot of his, the walking theater one with the lady and the nasty story about the lady. But then even that one was kind of like, this is going on for a long time.
It's literally 15 minutes long of this like 50-minute special. 15 minutes of it is that one scene.
It's like the same joke in 4 different scenes, basically.
Yeah, it's there's some like, slightly misogynistic undertones to some of his stories with his puppets. It's always like the annoying woman, the ugly woman, the fat woman, like is the antagonist in some of these stories.
Yeah.
Which I also feel like Bruce Schwartz is a great puppeteer. I do not think he is funny.
No,
he tries really hard in a lot of his things to insert little jokes here and there, and they are like the most unnecessary add-on tags of jokes that you're just like, oh, dude, just everyone liked the last thing you did. Just maybe walk off right now. You're done. I think you're good.
Yeah, I think another good example of what I was talking about was like at the beginning when those 2 flute players are playing flute, and it's like, at first, you're just like, oh, he's making these guys look like they're playing flute. It's just moving their hands. But then he like lifts it up and reveals that he's playing 2 flutes at the same time with the puppet hands like really changing the tone. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, he's got 2 tubes in his mouth that lead to 2 different recorders that these puppets are holding. And it seems to be the fact that he is playing 2 recorders at once via tube and using the puppet hands to actually play the recorders, which, immediately became 1,000% more impressive when he revealed it. It's like Penn and Teller doing magic, where it's like a normal magic show. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Watching Penn and Teller do a magic trick that blows my mind, even as they tell me how they did it, I'll stand up and applaud for that. And this was like that. There's not that many moments like that in the Bruce Schwartz one. Some of the moments like that in the Sergei Obraztov one, I was wanting to stand and applaud for, where I was like, you thought of how to do that. You had an idea to make 72 puppets sing in a choir at the same time and not have 72 people standing underneath there with their hands up in the air.
That is a really cool thing about his, is seeing how many people there are back there.
The fact that he is
pulling ropes and
for
running around.
lack of a better term here, he is the puppet master, like controlling this troop of 30 people to make his art happen. Versus Bruce Schwartz, who is a one-man show doing everything all at the same time. It's a really good contrast, but I think those are the most interesting parts of any of these episodes, is the behind-the-scenes things, showing us how they do things, or even, Philippe Gentil telling us stories about him being the French Bart Simpson. I think is more interesting than what we got from both Bruce and Sergei in their interview segments, where I think in both of these, I think there's too much performance. Like the performance is going for way too long without cutting in. And even the interviews, we don't get that deep into these guys and what they like to do.
Right. I don't think you could get deep into Sergei after talking to him for 1 million years. I don't think you'd get any more. But yeah, that's like the end product of what they're both doing was not super captivating to me. Like you just said, watching them do how they did it was. With the Hans Boerwinkle stuff, it was like that those performances were buck wild and fun to watch. And the Philippe Gentil ones were like buck wild in a different, much more French way. And just like, what are you doing, bro? But these ones were both just like, I don't know. I don't want to say that they were boring. Oh, I know what I'll say. They weren't for me, like you've taught me how to say.
I mean, I think the main thing that is so interesting to see that is true of Muppets, but is true in a different way in all these puppet performances, is that apparently every puppeteer, the only way they can think to end a sketch is, and then they died. Because
and I always think about Robot Chicken when that happens, because that's the ending of every Robot Chicken episode too, you know?
Yeah, and I get it. It works. But something about the Muppet Show of like, and then it blows up and then it explodes, to me is more interesting than watching puppets age in real time and die.
And just kind of go slump over. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes you don't even know if they're dead. They're puppets. Of course they don't look like they're alive all the time.
They were dead to begin with.
Yeah. So when they just fall over, I'm waiting, and then the crowd starts applauding, and I'm like, I guess the death was the end.
That's true. Maybe you get back up. Yeah, you don't know. He's not going to get back up.
Yeah, we've seen puppets who realize they're puppets and cut their strings off. Like, I don't know when that puppet's dead.
I think there was something cool about Bruce Schwartz. Really did make me feel like this is probably what puppet entertainment was like in like the Middle Ages and that kind of surrounding time. Yeah, he just felt like very committed. He's a craftsman.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. And I kind of liked his interviews because he was kind of just like ephemeral and strange.
Well, and this is definitely like, I think we even alluded to that this might be what this is like when we talked about it at the end of last week's episode, that this is Jim's nerdy puppet friend and Sergei is the mentor. Because when they're having the conversation about his puppets and how he makes them, he said the sentence, I sculpt them out of a heat-sensitive plastic compound. And I can just imagine Jim being like, oh, hell yeah, you do. Well, and also I think that what's interesting about that, though, is talking about the way he views these things. I see the line from this man to the man who gardens full-time in his life. Because it seems like to him, while he can use puppetry to like express himself and get his art across, it is not puppetry that he is passionate about. It is the art. And I thought it was really interesting that he says he just sculpts these things and there's no molds, because Jim asks him, like, are these like built from a mold? Do you like make them out of plastic, whatever? And he's like, oh no, these are all the originals. I sculpt a face, I put it on a puppet, and I use it.
And when they all got stolen one time and thrown in the bushes.
Yeah, he tells a very sad story about he didn't think he had an attachment to these puppets until one of them got stolen and tossed into a bush, and he went over and like picked it up and was like crying at this thing that had been tossed aside, like as if it was his child. Even the detail he added that it was in the rain. It was in the rain. They were in the bushes, and he called it devastating and talks about how he's like, I could have copied them from photographs, but like these specific sculpts are special. And I was like, he is talking to a man who has 8 Kermits in a drawer.
He dumps chocolate sauce on him whenever he wants to or whatever.
Right. And like, I'm sure Jim is just like, yes, I know exactly how you feel. He just like picks Kermit up off the floor in that moment, like, don't mind me. I always take great care of my Kermits.
Yeah, I put Miss Piggy in the wood chipper last week, but no big deal. I have 50 people who can make me a new Miss Piggy in 3 hours if I so desire. I would love to have a show where they talk about Jim Henson instead. Where it's like Jim's like in a soundproof booth and they're like,
oh, he doesn't get to know what they're saying about him?
No. He's just sitting there like, hello.
Hi.
And they're like, this motherfucker.
I mean, from all the stories I've ever heard about Jim Henson, I don't see that happening.
I'm just curious what they think about, I don't know, what they think about his art. I want them to have a back and forth about it more, maybe is what it really is. Yeah, Jim is kind of in the position to just sort of say like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. And not really say that like, oh, that's interesting. I don't think of my puppets that way. I just throw them around, get them all dirty and gross.
Yeah, but I'm sure they had a whole conversation that probably was filmed that involved something like that.
But I also respect that, you know, as like an interviewer, his job is also to sort of stay out of the way, and he's highlighting these puppeteers for people who, you know, his name's in the title, but it doesn't need to be all about him.
So I actually, well, I'll ask you in a second what you thought about it, but I liked the Bruce Schwartz one a lot because he kind of reminded me of people I've met in art school.
Yeah.
He was interesting. I could kind of follow the thread of what he was talking about. His performances weren't necessarily boring, but they are very hypnotic and dark and solemn. So I really was kind of like in a cozy place, sort of like nodding off a little bit, especially that lady singing the Irish dirge. That was good, but so long. But the Sergei Obraztov one, I think I legitimately did not like that one. What did you think of them?
I think for me, I didn't like Sergei Obraztov as an interview subject. I felt like he was
like, aren't I a little naughty boy?
Yeah, I feel like he was. It was almost like a "Don't Meet Your Heroes" for me too, and I didn't even see him as a hero before. But I was like watching this, and I was like, "Oh man, I wish I knew less about this man."
I felt bad I would just see the back of Jim's head and think, this is so boring. Poor Jim has to sit through this boring conversation.
Well, and because I do wonder what it's like for Jim, because Jim talks in the episode about reading Sergei's book, which is called My Profession, and he says, I read it about 30 years ago, which, as you can do the math, would have been about 1955, which is when Jim was starting Sam and Friends and things.
Right.
It turns out him reading Sergei's book is part of what inspired him to make his trip to Europe that we talked about forever ago, to learn more about the art of puppetry. So he read Sergei's book as a nice little student, when he was starting to make a Sam and Friends show, and was like, I should probably learn something about puppetry. And so he read Sergei Obraztsov's book, and then was like, Jane, Bob Payne, you guys gonna hold down the fort for a little bit? I'm gonna go to Europe, see what's going on with puppets over there. I'll be back. And apparently a lot of that was inspired by Sergei's book. So this is the man responsible for the Muppets in a way.
Yeah.
And Jim does mention that that book started him off on a different kind of puppetry, but we don't get to hear more about that because it's time to watch the alcoholic puppet that we saw in Here Come the Puppets, who is fascinating, might be too strong of a word, but it was interesting to hear him talk about that and then see it performed. Because he talked about the character as being a very sad person and a very sad character who is singing a song that's about making up excuses to drink. Like, it's an actual alcoholic. Like, it is this character who has lived a sad life, who is making up excuses to drink and just finding more and more reasons to chug down the whole bottle. And the puppet is actually drinking. Like, it's got a Cookie Monster hole in its throat where the liquor is actually going into its throat. Presumably probably water, not actually liquor being wasted. But the character is played strictly for a laugh. Like, the crowd is losing it at this puppet who has maybe the worst lip sync we've seen since we saw some Kukla, Fran, and Ollie back in the day.
What's going on there?
He just stops singing sometimes, and not at the point in which the song stops so he can chug the alcohol. Like, the puppet just I'm not going to sing this line, even though very clearly he is still supposed to be singing. And I understand he's an older man. He is clearly not doing all of the puppetry at these performances. So it is, later in his puppetry career firsthand, I believe. But it was a little watching just the clip we saw in Here Come the Puppets was one thing. Hearing him talk about how it's supposed to be really important and sad, and then seeing him play it as a joke.
With an audience full of people who are losing their shit.
Yeah, which I almost, again, if I saw it out of context, I might go, yeah, that's kind of funny. It's almost like a Cookie Monster kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, in Soviet Russia, our Cookie Monster drinks vodka.
And I guess maybe what he's saying is hilarious. We don't know.
That's true. There is a mix of, which, when you don't speak Russian, the fact that they're doing performances in a mock gibberish language sometimes, and then in other times, actual Russian. Yeah. For someone who doesn't speak Russian, it's hard to know when they're doing which one. I think he thinks he's doing what Bruce is doing. And what Hans Borwinkle and Philippe Gentil were even doing sometimes, where it's there's this serious, very heavy, emotional scene where these puppets are dying or that. And he's talking about the alcoholic puppet as if it is that it's very meaningful and all this stuff. But then it's played as a joke character.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, you do, I get it, but also, like, you are putting way too much on that performance specifically.
I just got the distinct impression through the whole thing that I just wasn't getting it, and because I'm not Russian, I probably couldn't understand it or something like that.
Yeah, but I will say, I think overall the performances in the Sergei Obraztov one I liked more than the performances in the Bruce Schwartz one.
Yeah, I would love to see the unusual concert in person. One other thing is I think all this stuff would look way cooler if you were actually there seeing it.
Which I think is
But
interesting thinking about Bruce Schwartz's stuff. So much of his like subtle puppetry, like we see the ballerina that we saw on the Muppet Show, which we learned was apparently commissioned for the Muppet Show.
oh yeah, right.
It seems like
right.
basically Jim asked him to come do something for the Muppet Show, and he was like, "Shit, I got to make a new puppet for the Muppet Show." And so he made the ballerina that we see that he uses in this performance a couple times. His stuff is so subtle, and the hand, like the finger work, is so important to what he's doing that I'm wondering what that looks like if you're at the back of the theater.
Yeah, that's.
Is it just
point.
a man like wiggling his hands around? You're like, I can't, Bruce, I can't see.
Yeah, like everybody has to kind of be like sitting on their knees, like right, looking straight.
It needs to be like almost
really
like a close-up magic theater or something.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
with us having the TV cameras right there in his face, watching that, it's really impressive to see the subtle movements he can pull off that look realistic. But again, if you're in the 10th row of a theater, I don't know how impressive that is.
But the unusual concert is like seeing like It's a Small World, except it's being put on live by 50 people under the stage.
Well, I want to run through some of the specific numbers. In the Bruce Schwartz one we haven't talked about yet, there's a couple of dancing puppets who do like fan dances. For me, weren't some of the standout ones. There was some quick costume changes at some points, but
yeah,
they were movement-wise to me less convincing than the ballerina.
I think the twirling of the fan was cool. That was one where I think I was noticing that his one hand was making the two hands do two different things, and it was like, yeah, like up close magic is really a good way to put it because.
Well, and the one with the female dancer, there's a point at which she stops and opens a fan, and I was like, how'd you do that though? Like there was a question. It did confuse me a little bit in a way that was interesting, as opposed to like I think it was. I don't remember, again, if it was Hans or Philippe, but one of them where they had just, like, the bird transforms into a scarecrow.
And they, like, flipped it upside down. That was Hans, yeah.
Like, some of these, the costume changes, the quick changes between puppets and whatever, like, were pretty impressive.
I mean, it was really like you were watching an actual, like, dancer do, like, what is that called? Interpretive dance. Like, you were watching an actual interpretive dance show, but it's just a little guy instead.
Yeah. And then it's about 23 minutes in when we get the 15-minute long, the stage that walks bit. The 15 minutes of puppetry in a row, very impressive. Good job, Bruce.
Where you're like spinning around and then you come back and you have two different puppets, like a different setting.
Yeah, like
that's
the
cool.
Quick change, very, very cool. All of the, the storytelling that he has to remember to put this on, like the cues and everything.
I thought his little jokes were funny.
You think?
In this.
Oh,
I thought the lady was pretty funny sometimes.
See, I wrote down this is just a husband talking shit about his wife. They argue. She wants a cow, and then he dies.
Yeah, he beats her. She beats him to death. Then he's fine in the next scene.
Yes.
That was a little confusing.
Like I was like, oh, she killed him. Like that's the end of this sketch. And then the next thing is just like he's angry. And he's like, that wife will be the death of me someday. And then the devil shows up and says, I'll take your wife away.
And he has to come up with such a convoluted scheme to do it, too. Like, the devil in this universe isn't very powerful. He's just like, I'm going to hide in the basement and jump out at her. Then Satan carries her down to hell. And, of course, he's got to be like, oh, she's really heavy.
Yep.
Carry her down to hell. I thought it was funny when she was like, hell rules. And then
right, like she's too cool for hell.
Yeah.
Like he's like, wait a minute, you like this place? Shit, I got to do something better.
Yeah. Then she's like, oh, hell's so boring. I thought that was pretty funny.
We do have some great representations of hell in these two episodes.
I had a question about making smoke in the 80s. There wasn't a better way to do it than just smoke cigarettes.
But first we have to talk about the strange dog alligator beast because he talks only with his tongue which is an
yeah.
interesting choice. There's like this big gaping mouth puppet, and the mouth doesn't move, but the tongue clearly has a
Just
hand
kinda
inside
goes,
of
"Wow,
it
wow,
or
wow."
something,
Yeah.
wiggling around.
Yeah, I thought that guy was pretty cool. But that's where it kind of loses steam when the devil shows up and he's like, you got to get out of here. And then they're just kind of going on and on.
Well, because I think she even like the stage turns around again. She's like, "I bet you thought I was done. This is the
Yeah.
epilogue," and you're like, "Oh, come on, lady."
Do we need it? We need an epilogue, huh?
Yeah, this isn't even the end of your puppet show. It's just the end of that section of your puppet show. That
Yeah.
could have been the end.
But if I saw that guy walking around with the puppet stage on him, I'd stay and watch the puppet show.
Oh yeah, it's like that
That was
guy in
cool.
Chicago with like
Yeah, the puppet bike.
puppet bike. Well, then in Bruce's world, we get to see Perrault, the sad clown puppet again, who we've seen before in Philippe Gentil's
Yeah.
performance.
People love Poirot.
Yeah. And then Jim asks Bruce about his time he spent in Japan to learn about puppetry. And he talks about bunraku and kabuki, and could have been a much better, interesting conversation. But instead, they moved on to the performance really, really quickly. But we get a Japanese dancer lady puppet who's dancing with an evil spirit trapped inside of a doll.
I think so. At this point, I wrote down, this fool's doing book reports, which I think speaks to what you were saying, where it's like he likes the, there's something about like just the stuff he's doing is about the art of puppetry, and he's less interested in the entertainment value of puppetry or something like that.
Mm.
He's kind of doing what Jim's show is doing, where he's like, look at all the different kind of ways that you can do puppets, and like trying to like show you something you've never seen before, but in like a National Geographic kind of way.
Right.
Sort of.
I feel like we're not getting the best context for Bruce Schwartz.
Yeah. Maybe they're just badly made documentaries. That could be the problem.
And, I hadn't considered that. But you might be right. Well, we wrap up the Bruce Schwartz one with, his own process, which is a chrysalis performance of a woman coming out of a bag and flying away.
Yeah, I did write, I bet she'll die or something. But she doesn't actually die. She's fine.
Yeah. But weirdly, as she flies away, we pan to the audience who is applauding.
That was really
And
weird.
then, right there in the middle, we see Jim and Jane Henson.
It's like a little jump scare. Not in like a mean way, but it's just like,
I know those guys.
Yeah.
But Jim just stands up and is like, I think I enjoy Bruce's performance more every time I see it. Thanks for joining us. Gives.
You know what? Motherfuckers in the audience are saying bravo. People say bravo.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I never heard anyone say bravo before.
Clearly, you've never been to a good puppet show.
Must be a New York thing. I did come away from that one wishing I could. The Boerwinkles one and this one, I was like, I wish I could be there and see that. And I guess Sergei Obraztov too.
Maybe our legacy will be opening up a weird little attic puppet theater somewhere in Missoula.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll invite all these people and be like, Bruce, look, I know you're out of the game.
One more time.
The only thing that can save my family is if you do your puppet show one last time. We'll just tell all of them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think half of them are dead, and the other half are
It's gonna be
definitely
hard,
retired.
Matt. Nobody said it was going to be easy or cheap. We're going to have to invest in the dark arts.
And the dark
We'll get
arts.
there.
I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
Patreon, but all right.
We need to really up our goal.
Yeah.
The dark arts don't come cheap.
Well, getting into a bit of the Sergei one, I want to talk about Jim in Moscow. Just felt weird to me, but this man is mostly just talking about cliches the whole time. That is his whole thing.
Yeah.
Every time he's asked about something, it's like, yeah, wouldn't it be funny if we did the cliche thing, but in a funny way? And you're like,
Yeah.
all right. I think the problem when you're talking about if these documentaries are made well, they start off with the best thing, and then they get more boring from there.
They run out of steam.
Because this one starts off with the adventures of Don Juan, which is told in an invented nonsense language. As Jim says, to put you in the picture, Don Juan has just died and gone to hell, which is where the story begins.
Well, you really flipped my wig, Jim.
Jim said hell.
Cliche destroyed.
This documentary series is where Jim comes to cut loose. We heard him say sex. We heard him say hell.
Yeah. This puppet show's for adults. He said that at the beginning of the last one, too.
But we get some terrifying, appropriately, I guess, hell imagery with a bunch of screaming souls behind a gate. And what I love
Big
about
pot or something that they're like.
I don't know if they're cooking them, But what I love about the Sergei one it is constantly cutting to backstage footage.
Yeah, that rules.
So you're seeing something happen, and even if it gets a little boring in the scene, they're going to show you underneath to show you what people are doing. And this one...
And they're always doing some crazy stuff.
Well, especially this one. This is the team of people who have to make the smoke of hell happen. And if it's 1984 and you have to make smoke on a puppet stage, you might have one guy who has a little sponge full of something that he's squeezing, but you got 4 other people just smoking cigarettes.
What? They didn't have smoke machines back then? What is going on? No fog machine or nothing?
I mean, I don't know, honestly.
It's just like a lady who's like in the classic cigarette smoking pose.
It's like they called the receptionist over, like, hey, Doris.
Exactly.
Yeah, what do you want, Sergei?
Perfect. I know you're going to be really good at this already.
But yeah, I do wish that more of these were a mix of the behind the scenes and the audience view cut back and forth like this, because I don't know, we see the demons shoveling more coal in to make hell hotter before Don Juan makes a break for it. But like, if I had to watch 3 minutes of the demons singing and shoveling coal, I would be bored. But watching a minute and a half of that, intercut with a minute and a half of the like 50-year-old like carpenter looking puppeteers just like, this is my job.
I was also struck by just like how like salt of the earth those guys looked. They're just like, you want me to pull the rope? All right, I'll pull the rope.
Yeah, that was my favorite, is like we see this giant choir of 72 puppets all singing, and they cut to the back, and it's like 2 guys holding like a bunch of cables like they're Spider-Man trying to stop a subway train. And they're just like, pull, 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 and like making all these puppets all sing at the same time. And I'm like, that dude's like working up a sweat to do what he's doing.
There's a kind of a nice moment when they're doing that too, where they kind of look at each other. They're like very stony faced, and they look at each other and then they kind of smile like, we're doing a stupid puppet show. That's kind of cool, right?
Well, and also it's just at a certain point you're just like, I hope this looks good. That was the other thing of like with this one. They don't use monitors at this puppet show.
Right.
You know, Bruce Schwartz has his hands there. He can see everything he's doing. The Muppets, they use monitors. These guys are just like, I'm a demon walking through hell. Ooh, I'm scary.
To be fair to them, it totally, all of this stuff had like a live action Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon.
That little main demon guy has so much personality.
The little potbelly guy who's like chasing him around.
Like,
yeah, I like that guy.
He's very good. But in the middle of this, we cut back to Sergei, who's explaining to Jim that what they're poking fun at is the musical cliche, obviously. And we chose Don Juan because everyone knows who Don Juan is. It's so lame. But he says Don Juan makes a break for your country. So he's running away to America because according to Sergei, they wanted to do a detective story. And apparently detective stories are entirely our business, according to Sergei.
Sure, whatever.
I don't know enough.
Not even invented here. I'm pretty sure like France.
It feels like Poirot, the other one, was an Agatha Christie thing. So he was pretty good at what he did.
The Murders at the Rue Morgue, I think, is widely considered the first fiction detective story.
What country is that from?
France. Right. I can't even pronounce the guy who wrote its names. Le Chevalier Auguste Dupin.
Sounds pretty French.
Oh, no. No. Edgar Allan Poe. So I take it back. He was right the whole time. See, that's what I'm worried about, because I think this guy might be a genius, and then I'm just stupid and I don't know what he's saying. I'm like, what a cliche? That's not what a cliche is, dummy. But I think he would say, I think you'll find, good sir, it is indeed what a cliche is.
Was that even the name of the story, or was that Edgar Allan Poe's name translated?
Detective.
Oh.
That was the detective in the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, where is all this French coming from if it's not the guy?
He's right. But anyway, the thing that they show doesn't really seem much like a detective story to me also.
No, because it's Don Juan dancing with a very 60s, 70s American performer, which, you know, it's kind of staying on theme, I guess, with this whole thing. Sure. Feels very 60s and 70s. But there's a lot of half-naked women on the advertisements around, which I guess is...
Some are full naked.
True. Which I guess that's how you say this is America. It's just giant posters of naked women.
Yeah.
But then a Marlon Brando-looking lounge singer appears and beats up Don Juan.
With some big, cool fists, kind of a Bluto sort of
Very
guy.
Bluto.
Yeah.
But the staging, all of this is very impressive. Again, without monitors, a lot of coordination happening.
And I was all in on the Don Juan thing, but then it kind of got a little boring. I thought.
Well, yeah, because then it cuts back to Sergei, who says this exact phrase: musicals became modern in art. When you have fashionable suit, that's wonderful. But fashion or trend in art is bad because it always becomes a cliche.
Oh, that really clears it up for me.
And he said, now the fashion is for musicals. So you take a classical composition and you reduce it to its primitive state, and somebody is always singing. They sing when they kiss, they sing when they kill, they sing when they die, and we show all of this.
And Jim's sitting there like, oh, uh-huh.
Well, yeah, because Jim's next question is, so Don Juan meets the milkmaids in Russia. So Jim also didn't give a shit. Sergei just wants to talk about cliches and poking fun at musical ensembles, and Jim's like,
I think you might be a genius. Yeah.
And when talking about why they changed Don Juan, Sergei says he didn't want to send him to hell because Don Juan makes women happy. So why should he go to hell if he makes women happy? So an angel comes down and takes Don Juan to heaven instead, and then there's a monument built to him. And apparently this is one of the, other people have done this kind of Don Juan story. Like in some versions, he dies being denied salvation by God. In other ones, he willingly goes to hell. And then in other ones, this happens, where he gets a divine pardon. So not outside the cliche that far, Mr. Sergei. They talk a bit about Sergei and how he got into puppetry, and he just kind of says by accident. He was making a doll, and then he put the head on his finger, and he's like, oh, hey.
Those are cool little ball finger head guys, though. I love the design of his stuff. It's so like Art Deco.
One feels like, especially like getting like the demon with the pot belly and the heads that sort of, it kind of looks like Frank from the movie Frank, like that kind of head style on these little puppets. That's just like a tennis ball sized head on top of bare naked hands, and it's very good, like very expressive. It's clearly some sort of troubled relationship they're trying to make up after a fight. But then after that, we get Sergei with a weird baby puppet.
The baby puppet's so weird because the baby doesn't do nothing except look at the audience and they crack up, and then he just like makes it go to sleep.
Yeah, he's trying to rock a baby to sleep, and the baby keeps trying to like grab at him or bite him and do all these things. And so he like smacks the baby on the butt, and the audience laughs. Or the baby turns the face to the audience, and then the audience laughs. And so I don't think I get the baby.
Yeah, I don't get the baby either. Then the baby just falls asleep. And if I saw that, I'd go, huh.
That baby sure did fall asleep.
Guy's got a little baby.
And then we finally get to the unusual concert, which is, sort of the climax of this episode. He talks a bit about doing anti-fascist propaganda puppet shows during the war, which is interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah.
But then that's when we break into seeing the choir and some musicians. And then we get to see two tap dancing vaudeville-looking guys.
This kicked ass. This is the best puppet show I've ever seen.
Do you want to explain why?
Yeah, because they're tap dancing, but they're also bouncing balloons off their heads while they're tap dancing.
Yeah, one guy will be tap dancing, and the other one is bouncing a balloon on his head, and then they swap, and the balloon doesn't hit the ground.
Yeah, and they're really good at it. I don't know how they're so good at it. I couldn't do that with my real head.
Like you and I just tried to do that on a live stream or something like that. We would fail.
And it would be, that's true. We should try, but it would be so embarrassing to do it in front of that many people. They'd all be like, "Oh, they let the balloon drop."
Right?
Can't believe it.
Maybe they have a backup plan if that happens, like a way to spin the joke.
Yeah. That part was cool, but this also, he says, is like a cliche of something, right?
Yeah, I think it's just
the
musical
whole
ensembles
concert
in general are a cliche, and so any performance of any type apparently fits into a cliche for Sergei Obraztov. But during that tap dancing scene, my favorite guy was the guy making the tap dancing sounds. Because he just had like 4 wood blocks that he was just like...
Yeah.
And like he was responsible, because obviously puppets don't have tap shoes. And I think that was... what was interesting throughout all of these is how much the music and the performances are live. Like Bruce Schwartz is singing the Irish song live on stage. He is playing the recorder. So many things that would be pre-recorded for a Muppet show are done live in front of people. In this one, you got the guy doing the tap dancing sounds on wood blocks. Later on, you have a violinist playing actually on stage behind the puppet stage.
Yeah, and a pianist too.
But it's very, very impressive, even if it's not entirely interesting.
I think it makes it less interesting, actually, to go to Sergei and to hear him say, this is satire.
Right.
And then to see it and be like, spend the whole time thinking, but what is this satire of? These people are just dancing. Like, they're playing the piano and the cello. Like, what is the satire here? I think seeing him try to explain it actually, like, it makes it more confusing than it if you just watched it and be like, wow, that's cool. Those are all really cute puppets.
This is the only example I can really pull. But if I'm thinking like a performance that is making fun of a cliche in a good way, you've seen the movie White Christmas?
Yeah.
There is a Danny Kaye scene in there where they're doing a song called Choreography. And he's doing a song basically making fun of how dance is moving away from dance and is moving towards choreography. And it's this whole thing making fun of like the pretentious nature of choreography in the 50s. And it's really well done and is like doing a good job of parodying this thing that he's saying is like this bad movement coming into the world of dance. And I feel like that's a thing that like I don't need to have lived in the 50s to watch and appreciate that and understand his opinion, what he's making fun of, what he's pushing at. Whereas like this, I'm watching something from the 80s, which I should probably be a little bit more familiar with. And I just see a straightforward performance of a tango and a choir and a violinist and all these things.
Especially because we watched a whole multi-season series that was poking fun at like cliched, hacky comedians on vaudeville stages. And yeah, like the Muppet Show did the same thing, but they actually were telling jokes and like, I don't know, like the pigs ruining a musical act was like, you know, that's making fun of a cliche, I suppose.
I will say after that, though, it is really nice to see all the puppeteers and Sergei get to come out and take a nice long bow.
I like that, too. Sergei's like, get out here, guys. That was neat.
But yeah, I think the biggest bummer of that episode is that Jim doesn't talk at all in the last 20 minutes.
He needs to always be in the audience.
But yeah, what are you feeling about watching 2 more of these suckers?
They're fun just because they're something different. Yeah, I feel like I didn't want to shit on either of these guys as much as I feel like I did, or the first time either. These are just firmly not for me, I think, in a lot of ways. But I like talking about them better than I like watching them.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
For sure.
No, that's part of it is while I'm watching them, I'm like, well, at least this isn't in vain. I get to talk about it with Sam.
Yeah. I really do think a lot about me if I was in high school and a teacher wheeled in a TV and showed that to me. Either of them, I'd be like, huh? So they're not entirely successful, I think.
Right. Yeah, they don't get you, somebody who's already has an interest in puppets, more interested in the art of puppetry.
Yeah, I mean, if they were longer and you were kind of following this person around, you got to really look at their workshop.
Yeah.
That night you'd follow them to the big show and you'd see behind the scenes as they were doing stuff.
I feel like maybe there's a world in which you could supercut all of these into a very good documentary about puppetry. I guess it's Here Come the Puppets a little bit, is what I'm describing, is a thing we already watched. Because I do like seeing the little moments of Bruce Schwartz sculpting his puppet. I like seeing the behind the scenes, under the scenes of Sergei Obraztov. I don't need to watch 15 minutes uncut of a performance of them.
Right. It's not ever going to be as effective to see a puppet show on TV if it's not the Muppets who are specifically geared towards TV. So you need to not show those long, unbroken sections of puppet show. We could have fixed this, Matt. If only we'd been
alive and old enough to operate an editing machine.
A video toaster? Did they have those back then?
Yeah, I think video toasters would have been a thing by then.
No, 1987. Didn't even have a video toaster.
Maybe Sergei invents it.
How are they doing their fades, Matt? How are they doing their dissolves?
Yeah, I think about that a lot when I'm watching like very simple things that I look at that look somewhat poorly made in the 80s. And then I remember I'm like, oh yeah, for me, that's one button in Adobe Premiere. And for them, that was 3 weeks of hand painting cell by cell to get something to move across a screen and look shitty at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think about that even for the credits of movies from like before 1970 or whatever, where it's like somebody drew all those and then they like cranked a big crank and it went in front of like a black background or something.
Yeah, when you think about like when they fade from like the credits are over the footage and you're like, oh, there was just a thing between the camera and the people.
Yeah.
There was just a reel of names that they had to actually put in there. Like they weren't doing a ton of cutout stuff. You know, blue screen and green screen, and by the 80s was a thing, but back in the 50s and stuff wasn't.
They just had to do it all by hand.
So that means it's time for me to ask you, Sam, what non-Muppet things did you enjoy this week?
I started watching Moonlighting.
Yeah.
Looked it up. I watched the first 2 episodes. It's so good.
Oh, yeah? Lives up to the hype?
It's a very, very interesting show because I've read about the future seasons, and it really seems like that. I know this is an ignorant thing to say on my part because I don't know anything about shit, but it feels so much like this show is one of the biggest transitioning shows between like a 70s show and like an 80s show or a 90s show.
It feels like the end of the 70s.
Yeah. Like it's structured in the early seasons, at least, very much like an episode of Columbo, but the writing is so different and so funny and so self-aware, and the character relationships are like, it's not like those shows, because a lot of those shows, there'd be like a new cast every episode, basically. But this one has like a continuing cast and through lines and like believable characters, and then a lot of like little self-aware jokes that are cut in. But yeah, I watched the first 3, I think, and they were all really good, and I'm excited to watch all of it. Yeah, it was very fun. It definitely lives up to the hype, I think. I think it's going to feel less like a 80s show the more I get into it, because the leads are just so likable that even if it's a little bit clunky, the pilot is a little bit clunky, but the first actual episode is very good. And then I also watched all of The Curse. I was waiting for it to all come out so I could watch it all in a big chunk. Oh, it was so good. I love that show. It was so evil.
I will never watch it.
I really like when people are like, oh, that show's so cringy. Usually I don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
Like The Office, where people are like, oh, I just couldn't even watch that episode. It was so awkward. Like maybe the one where he says he's going to give all those people. Yeah.
Yeah. The notorious Scott's Tots episode.
Yeah. But other than that, it's like, okay, whatever. But this show, I think the worst parts of that show, of The Curse, are when you hear them say something and you're like, oh no, is that what I do? Like you recognize little glimmers of yourself or people you know, and like the nasty little things that they do, or the ways that they don't understand like how their lives are better than other people's lives. And the last episode is terrifying. So the last episode has a lot of moments also, which is like, I don't even know how they shot that. Like there's some crazy stuff that happens in the last episode where it's just like, what? That looks unreal.
Maybe I'll watch somebody like unpack it on YouTube or something like that, because I've just learned that Nathan Fielder is the least, ironically for me, person in the world.
How about you, Matt? What did you watch?
Well, I watched Godzilla -1, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
But I also this week rewatched The Fellowship of the Ring. A movie I have not watched in maybe 10 or 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Which version?
Just the normal one.
Okay.
For context, I have never been a Lord of the Rings boy. Like in high school, I was never into it. I would go to the theaters with my friends to see the movies when they were coming out, but I could not have cared less. I don't know. Something didn't click with me. I'm not a high fantasy kind of guy. So like you introduce wizards and dragons and I'm kind of checking out. I was the Star Wars boy in high school. Like these were coming out at the same time as the Star Wars prequels.
Different.
So
no wizards or dragons in Star Wars.
Name one dragon.
Crate dragon. It's right there in the word.
He's dead though. I don't have to see him.
No, the Mandalorian fights a living one.
Oh, yes.
Remember?
No, I understand that Star Wars is fantasy and not sci-fi. I get that.
Yeah.
Something about the more, medieval type wizards.
I mostly agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
But I got to say, so the reason we are watching them is because my wife has never seen any Lord of the Rings films.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was one of those, spots where you're just like, I feel like I should see those at some point. Maybe they're obviously they won a lot of awards.
Maybe they're good, you were about to say.
Yeah.
Maybe they're good.
Turns out, that's a freaking good movie.
That movie's so fucking good.
It's really
They're
good.
all good, too.
And all I could think is every time a scene was really, really good, this guy made Meet the Feebles. Like, I'm watching the amazing scenes happen in front of me and going, this guy made a bunny who was dying from a sexually transmitted disease and then vomited all over a stage.
And then got his head blown off.
By a hippo lady.
Yeah. Yep.
And he made a fantastic trilogy of films.
Those movies get me hooting and hollering, and I love those movies.
Yeah. My wife was like astonished at how much she loved it.
Yeah.
Which was great. Like, it's great to show somebody a movie and them to love it. But for like,
she ain't even met Gollum yet.
No, you just get the little tease.
She just saw his little hand.
Yeah. Well, it was like my favorite thing. We were like looking at the titles, like we got the Two Towers and then we got Return of the King, and she's like, "Wait, the King? Is that Aragorn?" I was like, "We'll find out. We'll see. No spoilers."
Quite a keen deduction on her part.
Yeah. But it's very fun to watch like such a classic movie series for somebody who has not seen them before.
Yeah.
But it also kind of feels like
anymore.
It's been so long since I've seen them, and I've like, I definitely did not appreciate them when they came out. So rewatching them now, I'm like, maybe I am a Lord of the Rings boy. I'm a Godzilla boy. I'm a Lord of the Rings boy. What am I becoming?
I don't know. I think those movies are they're so good that they transcend if you like fantasy or not.
Yeah, they are freaking long though.
They are.
And we're not even watching the extended editions because that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's so fun also, like, there's so many memes about them, but it's even fun when you see the meme and you're like, that's when he goes.
That was Devin's experience.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
Yeah.
There it is.
She became the Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
That's what I was going to say.
As she saw one could not simply walk in, she was like, oh, he said it.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
But yeah.
I'm excited. Just hearing about those movies gets me charged up for. I have never read the books, and I never will.
I've read The Hobbit.
Movies.
I've seen two of the Hobbit movies.
Oh, not good.
No, not good at all. And I have seen this original trilogy, but I've not read the books.
The Hobbit's a fantastic book. I love The Hobbit.
Quick read. Very short.
Yeah. Don't make 3 or 4 or whatever movies out of it, idiot.
Wow. There goes our
it made me so mad because I
guest,
love those
Peter
movies.
Jackson.
I love those. I love that book so much. It was a book my dad gave me that book, like one of the first books he ever gave me.
Yeah.
Like a long adult book. And then I saw that movie and I saw it in the weirdo vision where it was like high frame rate.
48 frames per second.
In 3D, and it sucked. And I was just like, oh, pain.
And before we get out of here, I want to let you and the people at home listening know what we'll be watching and discussing next time. Because next time, we're going back to the nursery, Sam, as we watch and discuss 3 more episodes of Muppet Babies.
No, we're back already?
Yep. We just took a little
I
pit
was
stop.
looking at our release thing, and I was like, we haven't watched Muppet Babies in months and months. And it really genuinely felt like we had just stopped watching Muppet Babies.
It did, but we didn't. We are going back to continue Muppet Babies Season 2 with episodes 7 through 9 of that season. And these are the episodes called I Want My Muppet TV, Musical Muppets, and
Similar.
What's New at the Zoo?
They better go to the
Right?
fucking
What if they
zoo.
leave the nursery, Sam?
They won't, though. They won't, first of all.
Well, more exciting than that tease is we won't be alone next time, Sam. We will have a special guest segment with animator, screenwriter, storyboard artist, director, producer, and voice actor, Matt Danner.
Hell yeah.
He is the man behind the voices of Kermit, Beaker, Rolf, Chef, and Mr. Waldorf on the 2018 reboot of Muppet Babies, where he also served as the supervising director. So we'll talk to him about Muppet Babies old and new. I also, bonus little watch thing here, Sam. I also added it to our watch doc. you and I are going to watch the last episode of the 2018 Muppet Babies show that aired in 2022. This is season 3, episode 30, The Muppet Babies Show. So just so we're sort of like, we have some context for the newer Muppet Babies to discuss with the man who was half of the Muppet Babies.
Right.
So we are going to watch those 3 old Muppet Babies episodes, and then that one, the last of the new Muppet Babies episodes.
At the end of it, they all get in their cocoons.
So that will be next time. Please join us to listen to us talk with Matt Danner about, working and creating Muppet Babies. But we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Go to Kermitment.com to learn about all things Kermitment, whether it's listening to our latest episodes, buying a nice Keep Believing, Keep Pretending t-shirt, or if you want to reach out and contact us, mail at Kermitment.com. You can send us questions if you want to send in questions for our future Q&A mailbag fan mail episode. Or you can follow us on social media at Kermitment Pod to get the links to everything we're watching. And you can follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.